He was laughed at, just because he walked too slowly in the park. No one knew. That man in the gray shirt had quietly donated thousands of wheelchairs to the disabled over the years. No name tag, no camera lens, just an old notebook and a final note. If I am gone, this notebook will continue. The man who never hurries. The story of a man who chooses to live slowly, to walk with those left behind. The soft sunlight filtered through the trees, spreading over the winding stone path in the middle of the Central Park. The chirping of birds mixed with the rustling of leaves, creating a peaceful melody, as if the city had just slowed down to take a deep breath. James Miller wore a light shirt, khaki pants, and simple sneakers. He walked slowly beside a man in a wheelchair, Mr. Markwell, about 70 years old, thin, with gray hair, his eyes still bright despite his exhausted body. They didn't say much, just occasionally exchanging glances, then continued walking together, one walking slowly, the other pushing the wheelchair even slower. Behind them were the steady footsteps of two young people, a young man in a red hoodie and a girl with blue hair, both of them chatting animatedly as they walked. "Hey, that guy is walking so slow, like a turtle," the young man sneered, speaking loudly enough for James to hear. The girl looked at James, frowning. Let him be. He must be someone who knows the old man. I just thought it was strange, so I said it. The way he dresses is so rustic. The boy took out his phone, secretly turning his back on James for a moment, just recording some memories. A morning at the park with my uncle who was running away from military service. James did not turn around, did not show any signs of anger. He just glanced at Mr. Markwell, smiling slightly. He's young. He probably doesn't understand a lot of things. Mr. Markwell chuckled. We were young like that once. James nodded. That's right. And I laughed at a mute man who couldn't speak, only to later find out he was the founder of the first sign language school in the state. The two continued to move forward, quietly but firmly. In the distance, a group of people were gathering near the small square in the middle of the park. A truck stopped, carrying brand new wheelchairs covered with a tarp. The truck had faint letters printed on it, Wheels of Dignity Program, sponsored by our Victory Foundation. The young man in the red hoodie glanced over and laughed. What? Giving away free wheelchairs? Society really is too indulgent these days. The girl walking with him seemed hesitant, then hesitantly asked, Do you know who organizes these programs? The young man shrugged. Who knows? Probably some charity organization living in a virtual world. They didn't know that the simple man who had just passed by was the chairman of the corporation behind those thousands of wheelchairs. No need for a sign, no need for a stage, no need to be known. He just needed to slow down with an old friend. The sun was high in the sky. The road was starting to warm underfoot. Mr. Markwell leaned over slightly, pointing to a stone bench under a large tree. James nodded, stopping with him. The old stone bench was covered in moss. There was no nameplate, no engraved mark of gratitude, just a simple resting place, located at the fork of a path. Mr. Markwell sighed. When my wife was alive, she loved to sit here every Saturday afternoon. James sat down next to him, clasping his hands together. Silent. We used to sit here and watch the children run around, and imagine them playing in our yard, even though we never had any children. He spoke slowly, his voice deep as if echoing from a time long gone. James bowed his head slightly. No need for comfort. Just stay. After a moment, Mr. Markwell chuckled. I didn't know I would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. and I didn't know someone would be willing to walk with me. So slowly. James looked at him, smiling. I used to sit alone in the rain. No one walked slowly with me. The words flowed as lightly as the wind blowing through the leaves. No one was in a hurry. No one needed to know what was ahead. A park ranger passed by, stopped and bowed to James. Good morning, Mr. Miller. The young man in the red hoodie had just approached. Hearing that, he frowned, looked back at the man in the gray shirt, khakis, and old sneakers. Miller. Could it be? The green-haired girl was also startled. James Miller, president of our victory. The young man smiled faintly. Come on. He must be in a supercar with bodyguards. Who would wander around the park? James remained still, not turning his head. The guard nodded to Mr. Markwell, then continued walking. The atmosphere slowed down. The girl turned to whisper, I read that he rarely appears in public. Always dressed simply, not revealing his identity. The boy bit his lip. His eyes began to waver. A trace of confusion crept in. He looked back at James, not because James was famous, but because it was the first time he saw a powerful person, sitting on a nameless chair, with a disabled person, and not showing off. The wind blew, the leaves rustled. James looked up at the treetops, as if talking to himself. A simple chair can also make memories. Like a friend. No need to be noisy. Just sit next to me when I'm weak. As the sun began to tilt westward, the sun softened. The air in the park was slow like a song without words. James stood up. He gently put his hand on Mr. Markwell's shoulder. Let's continue. He nodded slightly. They left the stone bench and rolled slowly towards the square. There, the volunteer team was setting up the tent. Next to them were rows of new wheelchairs, wrapped in clean white plastic. Each one had a blue ribbon attached. A young girl from the support team stepped forward and greeted James with a respectful but unobtrusive look. Sir, the batch of wheelchairs just arrived this morning. 100 as promised. James nodded. Very good. Remember to note any special cases that require wheel or chair adjustments. Everyone needs something different. The red hoodie boy looked at James from afar. His eyes began to look thoughtful, no longer contemptuous or mocking. The girl who was with him quietly approached the theater, saw a few elderly people trying out new wheelchairs. An old woman was so moved that she burst into tears when she was able to turn the wheel with a little force. James did not enter the theater. He stood on the edge, by the tree, watching in silence. No one called his name, no one spoke, no one recognized him. Only smiles appeared, tears of a person who could move for the first time. James whispered to Mr. Markwell, I don't need them to know who I am. I just want them to know that someone didn't abandon them. A disabled child passed by in a wheelchair, waving to James, thank you. Uncle James raised his hand in response. The boy's smile was the only light he needed. The boy in the hoodie was still standing there, as if trying to sort out everything he had just seen. The slow gait, the way James listened to the old man, the way he stood on the edge of the car distribution. A president who did not step onto the stage. A person without a suit, without a microphone, without appearing on any poster, just standing next to and watching others happy. The boy turned away, put away his phone, quietly said, I was wrong. The girl nodded. Maybe. I was slow not because I couldn't keep up, but because I was waiting for someone who needed me to go with them. Afternoon fell. The sunlight turned pale yellow, dappled through the leaves. Under the tent roof, volunteers began to clean up. Those who had just received new wheelchairs lingered. They chatted, laughed, and shared their addresses with each other. The atmosphere was more like a meeting than a charity giveaway. James sat on a bench next to the flower bed. He held a small leather notebook with a faded spine. He opened the notebook and flipped through the pages. Each page contained a person's name, not an employee's name, not a partner's name, but simple names. Mrs. Helen broke her spine in 2019. Mr. Marcos lost a leg in a construction accident. Little Tara had muscular dystrophy since childhood. James quietly wrote on a new page. Mr. Miro, residing in the Tuanke residential area, currently using a wheelchair with a broken left axle. Send the car for the next batch. Mr. Markwell looked at James. Do you still write each person down by hand? James nodded. I need to remember that they are real, not numbers, not reports. People who have been sad because they can't go to the market or go to the yard by themselves. Mr. Markwell squinted at James. You've never told the media about this, even if your corporation can use it to promote its brand. James chuckled. Brands can be printed on billboards, but gratitude can only be printed in the heart. A little girl approached James. She was about 8 years old, holding a small bag of cookies. Uncle, this is my mother's cake. I want to give it to you. James bent down and took it. What's your name? Sandy. Thank you. Sandy, this cake looks delicious. The little girl smiled brightly, then ran to her mother. James opened the bag of cakes, smelling the aroma. It wasn't a delicacy, just a regular baked cake, perhaps a corner burned, but it was a gift with the giver's name on it. The boy in the red hoodie stood far away, witnessing the whole thing. He approached. Slowly, the arrogance from this morning was gone. I apologize, Mr. Miller. James looked up. There was no surprise in his eyes, only the stillness of a calm lake. The boy continued. This morning, I made fun of you for walking slowly, for dressing like a homeless person. I didn't know you were. James interrupted, his voice soft. No need to continue. I'm not upset that you said that. I just hope that in the future, if you see someone slow, you will slow down a bit and wait for them to go together. The young man paused. My name is Nathan. James smiled. Thank you. Nathan, your name will be written in my book. Nathan was surprised. What book? James closed the book. A book of people who thought wrongly, but bravely corrected themselves. The park gradually emptied. The afternoon sun had completely set. The rustling of leaves seemed to soothe the slow footsteps at the end of the day. Nathan walked beside James, not saying much, just walking. Beside them, Mr. Markwell was still in his wheelchair, quietly pushing each wheel. A short distance, but it took the three of them nearly 10 minutes to cover it. No one complained. No one was in a hurry. At the turn, James stopped, looking at Nathan. You can go fast from here, but if one day you want to slow down, come back here. Nathan nodded. He didn't say anything, but his eyes lit up with something both new and awakening. He took out his phone, deleted the clip he had recorded this morning. No need to keep what he wasn't proud of. James watched, not asking anything. Just silence, sometimes. A person changes, just by a short distance, and someone who doesn't push, Mr. Markwell turned. You've done what many politicians spend their whole lives unable to do. James shook his head. I didn't do anything. I just walked slowly. Late at night, James returned to the small house on the edge of town. Not a mansion, Just an old 2-story wooden house with a porch and a warm yellow light. He took off his shoes and walked into the study. He opened the notebook. He turned to the page with Nathan's name. Below. He wrote another line, back, then he put down his pen. He pulled a small box from the desk drawer. Inside were thank you notes, photos of people who had received wheelchairs, and scribbles like "Thank you for giving me wings." "My mother can go to the market alone now." James didn't keep them to show off. He opened them only when he was tired, when he needed to remember why he started. Outside on the porch, the wind blew gently through the trees. The sound of wind chimes swayed like a gentle breath. James stood by the window, watching the city sink into the night. No stage lights, no cameras, no newspaper headlines, just a man, notebook in hand, living a simple life as if the whole world had never known who he was. A quiet life, but enough to make thousands of people sit up, walk, live on. He gently closed the notebook, looking up at the ceiling, whispering, "If only one more person tomorrow can roll out into the sun by themselves, then I have not lived in vain." The room lights went out. Night covered everything in silence. But in that box, in that notebook, in each pair of wheels turning somewhere in this country, James Miller was still walking with them. Slowly, but not stopping. The next morning, the first message that popped up on Nathan's phone was from an unknown account. A photo, James Miller sitting on a bench, pushing a cart for Mr. Markwell. No title, no caption, just a normal moment. But Nathan knew. He knew who was in the photo, and that moment changed him. An hour later, Nathan posted a short message on social media, without mentioning James's name. It simply read, "I once laughed at a man for walking slowly," not knowing that he was the one who silently helped thousands of others to continue. Slow is not weak. Slow is walking with someone who can't keep up. The post went viral unexpectedly, not because it had a catchy effect, but because of the sincerity in each line. In the comments section, hundreds of people began to tell their stories. One woman wrote, "My mother received a wheelchair just when my father died, so she can go to the cemetery every week." A man commented, "I used to deliver goods on an old bicycle. Now I use an electric wheelchair, funded by some program. I wonder who is behind it. Could it be him?" Another left only one sentence. "If he reads this, please know we are grateful to him, even though we have never met him." James did not speak. No response, no confirmation. He continued his normal day, walking with Mr. Markwell, checking the wheelchair list with the volunteer team, and taking notes by hand, as if nothing had happened. But outside, the stories kept spreading. Some journalists began to investigate. Little by little, the puzzle pieces came together. An anonymous charity, a series of cross-state donations, a signature on a purchase order that matched James Miller's handwriting. People began to realize James had never wanted to be known. He just wanted others to live. And then an invitation came from an international humanitarian organization. They wanted to give James Miller an honorary award for his quiet contributions. No nominations, no applications, just thousands of thank you notes, all mentioning a man whose name was unknown, but who always walked with others, slowly and sincerely. Afternoon. In the office of the Global Humanitarian Organization, a delicately printed card, white on a silver background, in bold letters in the middle, "In honor of those who quietly changed the world." Below that line was a blank space. There was no name, only the symbol recipient number 37, anonymous contributor of mobility programs. No one filled it in, because no one knew for sure who it was. The organization secretary picked up the card and looked at it. "Are you sure he won't say no?" The coordinator shook his head. "Not sure, but if he really is, he won't come, at the same time, at the park." James and Mr. Markwell were stopping by the path by the lake. The wind was blowing gently. The water rippled. Mr. Markwell smiled and held out his hand. "Today's news, the press is talking about the unknown man who has helped thousands of disabled people." "Are you going to deny it?" James was silent, looking down at the lake. "There's no need to deny something you've never acknowledged." Mr. Markwell narrowed his eyes. "What if they give you the award?" James shrugged. "I'll give it up. The ones who deserve it are those who are in wheelchairs and still work, still live, still love. They are the ones who change the world." A child ran up and stumbled. James walked quickly over and helped the boy up. The boy sobbed. "I fell." James brushed the dust off his knees. "I fell and got up. Next time I'll be more steady. But someone has to help me." "Right," James smiled. "Then today, remember to help someone else when they fall." The boy nodded and ran off. Mr. Markwell chuckled. "If the award is for those who make others want to be kinder, then you can't escape." James turned back. His eyes were quiet. "I only want one thing, that when I'm gone, there will still be someone who will walk slowly with the weaker person." Mr. Markwell nodded. "You don't need a name tag. You've already left your mark on this path." In the distance, Nathan was returning to the park. In his hand was an envelope. Inside was an invitation to the honor ceremony. Someone had mistakenly sent it to him, thinking he was the unknown man. He knew he wasn't worthy, but maybe, this time, he could be the mailman. Nathan stood at James's door, holding the silver-stamped envelope, knocked 3 times. The door opened. James was surprised to see Nathan. "You're here early." Nathan held out the letter. "Someone sent it to you by mistake. I thought you should take it." James took the letter, glanced at the invitation to the ceremony, said nothing, just nodded. "Thank you for not keeping it." Nathan was confused. "I don't deserve it." James smiled. Not everyone who arrives first is the recipient. Sometimes, the person who delivers the letter is also the one who makes the difference. Nathan looked at James, a moment of silence. No words were needed, just respect and gratitude. James had not promised to attend the ceremony. He simply folded the letter and placed it on the table next to the old notebook. Then he turned to Nathan and asked softly, "Do you want to go for a walk?" Nathan nodded. This time, he did not hurry. He walked slowly, with the pace of someone who had learned to listen. Late afternoon. The park is shady. James and Nathan push Mr. Markwell's wheelchair along the lakeside path. 3 men, 3 generations, 3 different paces, but all heading in the same direction. No one leads, no one lags, just walking together. Halfway there, they meet a young girl struggling with her wheelchair stuck in a wheel. Nathan walks quickly over and helps her wheel out of the crevice. The girl looks at him, grateful. "Thank you. If it weren't for you..." Nathan smiles, shaking his head. "It's okay. I used to need help." James stands behind, silently observing. No interrupting, no lecturing, just smiling, because he sees what he hoped for, beginning after that. The group sits down to rest on the old bench. James took out his notebook, added another line. "Nathan, who used to walk slowly with me, now walks quickly to help others. Mr. Markwell leaned back, squinting in the sunlight. I think... This is the first time I've seen 3 people sitting together without one being ahead of the other. Nathan looked at James. Are you going to accept the award? James was silent for a moment. Maybe I don't need to stand on the podium at all, but if they need someone to speak, I'll write a few words. Nathan nodded. And if you don't want to read, let me. A simple sentence. But James paused. His eyes were filled with emotion. Thank you, Nathan, because when I can no longer walk and can no longer read, there will still be people who remember why we started. Honors Day. The hall was large and solemn. The audience fell silent as the MC took the stage. The last category is for someone who has never been on stage before, someone we had to search through hundreds of handwritten letters, thousands of thank you notes without addresses. The lights were focused on an empty podium. No one stepped forward. The MC continued, because he refused to appear, but sent a letter. The paper was unfolded. Nathan, sitting in the front row, clenched his fists. He knew. He was the one chosen to read it. He stood up, on stage, slowly, not in a hurry, opened the letter, read each word clearly. I am not a miracle worker. I'm just lucky enough to see it happen, every time someone walks on their own, either with wheels or with faith. If there's anything I want to say today, it's... Nathan paused. He looked up. He looked straight into the audience. Don't leave those who walk slowly behind. Maybe they're just waiting for someone to walk with them. A moment of silence filled the hall. Then applause broke out, not for a title, but for a truth, in a corner out of the spotlight. James stood silently. No one saw. No one knew he was there. He just nodded and turned away. Outside, it was raining lightly. He didn't have an umbrella, just walked slowly, like every day, in the rain, but steady. It was late. The rain had stopped. Only a few drops remained on the leaves. James returned home. His shirt was wet, his shoes were soaked, but his eyes were still gentle, as if nothing could make him rush. He turned on the living room light. Not bright, just a warm glow from the old wooden table lamp. He hung up his shirt, poured a glass of hot water, and sat down at his usual table. In front of him was a notebook that was almost full. James turned to the last page. He picked up a pen and wrote slowly, "Today, I didn't say a word in public, but someone else spoke for me, and he spoke better than I could have hoped. If I'm gone tomorrow, this notebook will continue." He put down his pen. He leaned back in his chair. His eyes closed. Not tired, but peaceful. Outside, Nathan stood under the porch, holding a paper package. He didn't knock. He just left the package on the porch, a new notebook. Soft, leather-bound, empty inside. Taped to it was a handwritten note, because the next steps need a place to write them down. The next morning, a boy rode his bike past James's house and stopped. He saw the door open. The man in the gray shirt was nowhere to be seen. But the old notebook was neatly placed in the mailbox. On the cover was written to the next person, "If you have the patience to go slowly," and so the story didn't end, just quietly passed hands. From the person who was once laughed at for walking slowly, to those who began to learn to live slowly to walk together. A journey without a name tag, no statue, but clearly imprinted, on every road, every wheel, every small step, of a person who chose to live lightly, but left the heaviest things in the hearts of others. Signed at the end of the episode, James Miller. the man who is never in a hurry.